Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us live on H360LIVE here at Healthio Studio. Joining me today is Courtland Long. I also have Miss Maggie Knight. Maggie is an oncology nurse from Stony Brook University Hospital. My name is Dave Duplay. We have a very exciting show for you today, so let's jump right in and get started. We've got a couple of health tips that we want to review with you, some interesting articles, and of course our discussion with Maggie, and we're going to hear what she's working on over at the hospital. So let's jump right in. I think we have our first H360 health tip. Is that right, Courtland?
Yes, we do. Our health tips today are 7 tips for healthy eating. And so the very first tip, as you start out your day, you try to eat a healthy breakfast. And so the best way to do that is to include lean proteins, whole grains, fruits, vegetables. A great recipe to try is oatmeal cooked with, low-fat milk. You can throw some blueberries in there to get antioxidants, or use a multi-grain toaster waffle and put some low-fat yogurt on that.
Now, they say that breakfast is the most healthiest or the most important meal of the day. Is that right?
Well, I think it is. I mean, it starts you off, and if you feel full after breakfast, I think you'll continue to feel full throughout the day.
Maggie, did you have breakfast this morning?
I did.
You did? What'd you have?
Yeah, I had a granola bar.
All right, a granola bar.
Yeah.
Right? Did you get that at the hospital?
No, I did not.
No, it was on the train ride here?
Yeah, on the train ride here, yeah.
Good. So I think it is important to start your day off with a nutritious and healthy breakfast. So do we have more tips?
Yeah, tip number 2 is to make half your plate fruits and vegetables. So every day you should be trying to get 2 cups serving of fruit and 2.5 cups serving of vegetables. So if you try to keep in mind that half your plate should be leafy green vegetables and other fun colors, you should be all right.
Now, when you say half a cup, it always confuses me because how much is a half a cup? Is there a rule, it's a small palmful, or because I don't usually go out and carry a measuring cup with me to get my portion straight. So what's the rule of thumb there?
Well, so you're bringing me into tip number 3, which is watch your portion sizes. So, not everybody wants to bring their measuring cups out when they're cooking a meal. And so there are a couple tricks of the trade, that you can use, and Maggie, you might know about these as well. But you can use your hand as a guide for how big your portion sizes should be. So for things like an apple, it should be about the size of your fist. For a piece of protein, it should maybe be the size of your palm. A piece of fish or salmon should be the size of a checkbook. And then also a piece of multigrain bread should be the size of your whole palm. So it's, that's a really easy way to kind of make sure you're sticking with the guidelines.
Yeah. So do you see portion control at the hospital when you're treating patients and you see their meals come in? Do they get a healthy breakfast, and are they portion control?
I think they have some pretty healthy choices at the hospital. I don't know if all of the patients follow them, but definitely have some healthy options. And I think it's helpful if you use a smaller plate too. That way you don't see a giant plate that's almost empty, but you see a smaller plate that's practically full.
That's a very good tip. I would have never thought of that. So maybe instead of using my big dinner plates, I'll use my smaller, my little snack plate for my meal, right?
Yeah, it is a really good tip. And along those lines, the color, that you're surrounded with. So using white plates or even blue and green plates, because those will kind of suppress your feeling of hunger. Whereas red and orange and yellow plates, those will sort of make you feel more hungry and make you eat a little bit more.
Huh. What color are the plates at the hospital?
Green, actually.
Yeah. All right. So we're getting there, right? One step at a time. That's an excellent tip. Do we have more?
Yes. So be active. Staying active helps to lower your blood pressure. It helps control your stress and helps your body regulate your weight. So that doesn't necessarily mean that you need to be a gym rat by any means, but some easy ways to stay active are to take a walk, after dinner or after lunch. You can also take a break from work in that sense as well. Or, play soccer or catch with your child if you have children, or even just go out with your friends and, kick the soccer ball around.
Yeah, I think the worst thing to do is eat late at night and then watch TV, right? And then roll right into bed.
Yeah.
Right? Eat and then get out, get a little exercise. I think that helps you out, right?
Yeah.
What else do we have?
Fixing healthy snacks is another major one. So you want to make sure that your snacks are combination snacks. They will help to sustain your energy levels throughout the day. And when we say combination snacks, we mean choosing a variety of whole grains, fruits, vegetables, nuts, low-fat or fat-free dairy, and picking like 2 or 3 of those categories and bringing them with you throughout the day.
Excellent. That's an excellent tip. Healthy snacks, kind of like the granola bar on the train ride in, right? It sounded very healthy.
It did.
Yep.
So the next one we have is getting to know your food labels. I know that these can be very confusing for a lot of people. You're walking through the grocery store, you have a lot on your mind, and you're trying to read food labels and figure out what does low fat, reduced fat, trans fat, what do all of these things mean? And the FDA has a pretty good guideline to figure out all those things, because they just recently, I think, created the guidelines because there are new regulations around it.
Excellent. Yeah, reading the label, right? There's so much to learn. And who can help you do that?
Well, a dietitian can help you do that. Yeah. So consulting with a dietitian or a nutritionist is a really great way to get a personalized plan. And they can especially help you if you have things like high blood pressure or diabetes, and you need to have a more specialized plan than just a person who is trying to maintain weight.
So one size doesn't fit all.
One size does not fit all,
Very
no.
personalized. Do you work with many dietitians at the hospital?
Yeah, on our floor, the appetite isn't really increased, it's decreased. So we use our dietitians to kind of increase the caloric intake of our patients in order to keep them a little healthier while they're at the hospital.
So different types of food, or more proteins or more carbs?
Different types of food, maybe supplements we use. It really depends on the patient, but normally we're trying to increase their appetite, get their immune system up a little bit.
So the point, I guess, is that whether you're trying to lose or whether you're trying to gain, one size doesn't fit all, right? We have to look at each situation and analyze it and go from there. So that was very interesting, and I think everything that we talked about is something that our viewership could use. Did you guys happen to know that April is National Occupational Therapy Month?
That's very interesting.
Do you work with occupational therapists at the hospital?
We do work with occupational therapists, and they're wonderful.
They are wonderful, and they're doing some great things and bringing people integrated back into their job in the workforce. And Cortland, what do we know about some of the efforts that are going on this month around this cause?
Well, so during the whole month, occupational therapists and students, educators, researchers, they all celebrate occupational therapists. And occupational therapists, or OTs, they're very helpful in pediatrics to geriatrics, people of all different ages, to prevent or live better with illness, injury, or some form of disability. And so they're so dedicated. They're helping older drivers maintain a sense of independence. They're helping veterans who are coming home who have TBI, which is traumatic brain injury, or PTSD, to be reintegrated into the community. They help people who have suffered a stroke to relearn everyday tasks, and even children with autism, how to create meaningful connections with their friends and family.
That's a good point. I have a personal friend, and they have an autistic child. And he's graduated from high school, and he works almost every day with an occupational therapist, because now he's transitioned from high school, and he's going off, and he's going to go to community college and take some classes, but he really wants to work, and so he wants to get back in the workforce, and he's, the occupational therapist is showing him how to work, when to work, and then educating others in the workplace around his autism and what it means to have an autistic person in the workforce. So I think they're doing great things, and if you know of an occupational therapist in your area, reach out, give them a hug, because they are doing some fantastic work.
Yeah, that will definitely make them happy. And speaking of making people happy, Dave, I think you have some tips for us about how to make yourself happy.
Yeah, well, I'm a pretty happy person in general. I like to put a smile on my face and the people around me. And we do have some tips on how to be happy. It's just not being happy kind of, psychiatric or from the mind's point of view. But being a happy person helps lowers your blood pressure. It extends your life. It has so many benefits. So I've got a couple of tips on how to be happy in 30 seconds or less, okay? It's G-rated, but we're going to go through them. So just smile. You know, we're all smiling here, right? And smiling has so many benefits. I walk down the streets in New York, and, you know, you could just tell the happy people. They look at you. There's eye contact versus the people who are always looking at the ground and never have a smile on their face. So it doesn't cost anything to give somebody a smile, and it'll really make you feel good, and it'll make the person that you're smiling at feel good as well. So put a smile on your face, and you'll get one back, chances are, right? The next tip I have, you know, our mothers always told us, at least mine did, David, straighten up, right? And it was always, and fly right was behind that, but I think the straighten up part was posture, right? And so if you straighten up and you sit up, you know, you're happier, you look more attentive. The people around you, if you're sitting up and you're attentive, it makes the conversation more engaging. We feel engaged versus if I'm slumped over and I'm not smiling. And so straighten up, and it even makes you look a little thinner.
Yeah.
You know, good posture, right?
And I think as you brought that up, we all kind of straightened up a little bit in our chairs.
Yeah, I noticed that, Maggie, when your shoulders back, right? She's got a smile on her face. Yeah. So it's a good tip, and it helps your posture, and it shows people around you that you're engaged in the conversation in what we're talking about. The next tip I have is chat it up with a stranger. And I love this, right? So I'm always meeting new people, talking to people, especially in the line at Starbucks. And I'm usually chatting it up because those drinks are so difficult to order. I can never remember, you know, what small, medium, and large is not how you order at Starbucks, right? They want you to order a specific way, and there's all kind of drinks. And I chat it up with people just so I can get my drink order right at the Starbucks. But chat it up with somebody in line, talk to somebody, ask them how their day is going, and you'll be surprised at the warmth that you get back. Do you chat it up with strangers, Cortland, in line at the Starbucks?
I do, definitely.
Yeah, I could see that. Right?
Yeah, you know, I like to know what other people's favorite drinks are, because sometimes I feel like I get so bogged down in the one that I get all the time. It's fun to try different ones.
Yeah, yep. The next thing you can do is take a stand, right? Take a stand on a cause, and it doesn't have to be something big. Even signing a petition that you're passionate about can really make you feel good and make you feel happy, because you're engaged in the cause and you're doing your part. And again, it doesn't have to be something that you're spending hours doing. Sign a petition, take a stand, and it really makes you feel good. The next one kind of interweaves in that is do a small good deed, right? So we all think about, well, I want to go out and do a good deed, but it can be a small deed. Something as small as when you're standing in line at Starbucks chatting it up, right? We heard about that.
Yeah.
You're paying for the drink of somebody behind you in line, right? It's almost like that pay it forward. And so you're doing a small deed. You're driving through the toll booth on the turnpike and paying for the toll from somebody behind you. Hopefully they didn't get on miles and miles back, because the toll could be quite expensive, right? More than a latte at the Starbucks. But do a small good deed for somebody, and I guarantee you it will make you happy.
I think that was a really big trend a couple years back, where people were, you know, finding a Target layaway list or a Kmart layaway list and paying the majority of that off, if not the total of that off, for families.
Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic. And the last one is a personal favorite of mine, and it's give a hug. You know, hugging somebody, showing warmth, it really, really makes you feel good. And as our audience knows, we go to a lot of walks. We talk to a lot of people. Just this past weekend, we were at Walk MS in Lower Manhattan. And to give somebody a hug feels so good. It really does. And it just makes you feel warm, and it makes them feel warm. And again, giving somebody a hug doesn't cost you anything.
Yeah,
so,
there's so much positivity at those events, so it's really great.
Yeah. So that is my H360 health tip, right? And I think you can do all of those things in less than 30 seconds. So I would encourage everybody to put a smile on your face, straighten up, and go out and hug somebody. Yeah, we have an interesting article that we read.
Yes, we did.
And Maggie, I don't know if you know this, but the medical college entrance exam is getting a makeover.
I did not know that.
Yeah, yeah. And so I'm not sure what the cause of that is. I think Cortland's going to share with us how it's getting a makeover, but we're going to hear about it.
Yeah, so one of the taglines around this new exam revamping is that the essays are out and sociology is in. So, this month a lot of students are going to find that the exam is quite a bit different from their predecessors. This is the first major revision in 25 years. It is longer, broader, and more interdisciplinary. So students are going to have to not only know the science behind a lot of these things, but they're going to have to know exactly how to apply it as well. So they're in for quite a change. The changes are designed in part to mirror the evolution of the healthcare delivery system in the U.S. and the nature of illness. So a lot of times we talk about, how our illness is evolving to more chronic illness like diabetes and obesity. So the purpose of this exam also is to help students, figure out how they can have a more interdisciplinary level of care with their patients when they become doctors. That's very interesting.
Now, Maggie, as a nurse, I know you went through an extended period of education. Did you have entrance exams?
No entrance exams, just regular admission to a nursing school. But after we finish the nursing school, we do have to take a board exam. I think doctors also have to do that when they're done with medical school.
Yeah. So what do you think about this re-engineering of the test, the exam?
I think it will be interesting to see how students study for it and the classes they have to take to prepare. But I definitely think the medical field is really shifting to a more patient-based, family-centered care. So I think this is a good move for the medical schools.
So you make a good point about the students preparing for the test. I know that there's all kinds of institutions where you can go to practice and get ready for the test. Do you think those organizations are ready for this change?
Oh yes, I think they're definitely ready for the change. I think they were prepped for the change probably a year before it rolled out. So they have new guidebooks for how to help students study. And I think they probably also helped the review board figure out the questions that would work best. Because I believe that when they're trying to remake the test, they throw in a couple sample questions, if you will, or test questions, for when the exam will be remade to see if those questions should be included or not.
Very interesting. So we'll stay tuned. It's going to be interesting to see over time, right? I guess depending on where these young students go, whether they go on to do fellowships, but over the next several years, if it's turning out different types of physicians in the medical community. So great article. Thank you.
No problem.
So Maggie, thanks for coming in today.
Thank you for having me.
You took the train in. And so, as I understand it, you're an oncology nurse at Stony Brook University Hospital. And I guess by University Hospital, you work at a teaching hospital. And how large of a hospital is that?
It's a little over 600 beds, but we are expanding. So we'll have 2 new buildings in the upcoming years. So we're hoping to grow and be one of Long Island's top hospitals. We are now, but we're looking forward to accepting more patients, giving them more resources. So it's exciting.
Fantastic. Yeah. And I understand that you work in the bone marrow transplant group, working with patients with multiple myeloma and lymphoma, right? So tell me about that. Tell me about you decided to be a nurse when?
I decided to be a nurse on a whim. I went to college at Stony Brook, and I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. So I had taken all of the prereqs for nursing school. I got a degree in anthropology, so I applied. And thankfully, I really love my job. And oncology nursing, it kind of came about, through the extracurriculars I did in college. And I think I really have a knack for it. And I really love the patient population I work with. I wouldn't want to work anywhere else.
And so tell us, what does it mean to work in the bone marrow transplant? I have these visions in my head that are probably wrong, but can you tell us, what is a bone marrow transplant? Let's start there.
So most of the public have seen movies and videos that kind of portray bone marrow transplants as very painful and harmful to people. But actually science has come pretty far, and we do a lot of stem cell transplants, which basically mean that we take stem cells from a donor, a matched donor from the registry or someone in your family, and we take their stem cells through a process called pheresis, which is painless, very similar to donating platelets. And basically that's kind of how we do our transplants now. So the term bone marrow transplant should really be blood and marrow transplant.
Yeah. So are they still doing the old type of
They
bone marrow?
still do the old type. From what I've heard, they usually do it for mostly kids. On my floor, I don't see it often at all. We usually just use the peripheral blood stem cells from a donor and transplant that into our patients.
Now, when you're looking for a match, do you turn to the family first?
So with specific blood cancers like leukemia or some types of lymphoma, we do look for the family first for an allogenic transplant. And if there is no match in the family, we do go to the registry, which unfortunately only has 2% of the population on the registry. Because unlike being an organ donor on your license, being a bone marrow donor, you have to register separately.
Now, how do people find out about this registry if it's not similar to signing up when you get your driver's license?
It's a lot of education, and there are a lot of organizations now that are, very passionate about getting people on the registry, and they're even offering free swabs, and every swab, every time they join the registry, costs $70. So these organizations are working towards getting as many people on the registry as possible at no cost to the people who are willing to donate.
Now, when you say swab, what does that mean?
So a lot of people don't know how to get on the bone marrow registry, and all it takes is a cheek swab. That's like the kind of slogan for delete blood cancer, just a cheek swab. And basically, you get a piece of paper in the mail, you fill out your address, your name, date of birth, and they send you two, almost like Q-tips. You swab the inside of your cheek and the other side, and you stick it back in the envelope, send it in, and you are on the registry.
Huh.
Now, are there a lot of registry sign-up events, like on the weekends when we go to these health awareness 5Ks and fun runs? Are there similar things for registry?
Yeah, absolutely. If you go on DKMS or Be the Match, there are always families who maybe have someone in their family who needs a transplant. So they do hold a lot of registry events in the hopes of, finding a match for their family member and finding a match for another patient looking.
Interesting. So if I were interested in getting on the list, which I am, where do I Google it, or can you point me to a place?
Sure, deletebloodcancer.org.
Deletebloodcancer.org. Okay.
They have a portion of their website where you can sign up to get a swab kit. And it's super simple. They send it to your address, you swab, and you send it back. And then you have made the commitment. If someone who does need a transplant and you are their match, you will be willing to donate.
Now, I know a little bit about organ donation because I am on the organ donor list, and I signed up when I renewed my driver's license. I've always been on the organ donor list. In the case of bone marrow, do you know who you're donating to, and does the person receiving know who that bone marrow is coming from?
So a lot of organizations like DKMS, it's an anonymous donation. So you'll, if you are a match for someone, you donate your bone marrow, and it's usually about 2 years where you can find out, who the donor was or who the recipient was, and they can meet if they both agree to meet.
I see. Huh. Very interesting.
Yeah. Are the kits free?
Yes.
Oh, okay. And how long are you on the registry for?
Till you're about 62.
All right.
Yeah. And there's a 1 in 500 chance that you will be a match for someone. So the likelihood is pretty low that you're actually going to be called to, save someone's life.
So it sounds like I should add to my tips of being happy in 30 seconds or less, because I can't imagine a swab of both cheeks would take more than 15 seconds
exactly.
apiece,
Yeah.
right? Filling out the form, putting a stamp on the package, and mailing it away, that would really make me happy. And I think I'm going to do that when we break from the show today. I'm going to get right on that.
Great.
So a typical patient in your ward, how long would they be under your care?
So typically we only treat people with leukemia, lymphoma, or other blood disorders. If they are newly diagnosed with something, they may be on our floor for up to 4 weeks. A transplant patient, depending on the transplant, there are 2 types: auto transplant, which is from yourself, or an allo transplant, which is from someone else. They're on the floor for about a little over a month. So it's quite a battle they have.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So it leads me to the next thing I want to talk about, and that's you, when they're there, you're trying to make their stay a little more enjoyable. And you've come up with what I think is just a phenomenal idea you call date night, right? Tell me about that. What is date night at Stony Brook University Hospital? Because I'm very interested.
So myself and chaplain Elizabeth, we got together, and we had one patient who was very inspiring. You came to work and you looked on the board and you wanted to have him as a patient because he's just, a ball of joy. So I came out of the room one day and I said, man, we should have, a spaghetti dinner for them or something. And Elizabeth, jumped right on the idea. And so that was our first date night. It was in August. For a couple who'd been there for, almost two or 3 months. And, you just walk by and you see him bored and you think to yourself, you want to get out of work and you want to enjoy the sun, but, he'll never be able to do that because he's stuck in the hospital. So let's give him a little bit of normalcy. Let's do something fun. So that's where date night began. And now we just kind of, we try to do it for everyone who has someone special. If they're in the hospital for a long period of time, we want to, show them that we care about them and that it does stink to be in the hospital, but you can have a little bit of normalcy for a few hours.
Yeah. So you're not only a nurse, as I understand it, you do a little detective work, right? Because you're finding out what your patient's favorite meal is, whether it be pasta or a steak or whatever it is. So you find that out, and then you order it, and you have it prepared, and then you have to get the patient kind of out of the room for a little bit, because then the troops, right, all the good people in the bone marrow transplant unit, the nurses there, transform the room into a little intimate setting with a tablecloth and china and a little electric candle, as I know, right? No live flame, and flowers, and then you bring the patient and their significant other back in the room for date night.
So what we normally do is we will talk to the significant other and we try to make it a surprise for the patient. So we ask them, get dolled up and come in at this time and kind of find out what they want to eat. And then we decorate this cart, which happens to be one of the carts we use for transplants. So we cover it with a tablecloth, set it up with nice china, and then roll it in the room. And the response from the patient is incredible. They are just so excited, so flattered. It's just wonderful.
Is the patient ever on to you about what you're doing? Are they like, I think it's going to happen?
I would say the first few, everyone was really surprised. We got a few grown men crying.
Oh, wow.
But since then, we've done it more often, so they kind of know.
Yeah.
So then, and this is the interesting part, I understand that you were out of your own pocket making this happen. Fantastic.
Yeah, and so far, after our news coverage, we got very lucky, and the dining hall downstairs, one of their chefs who usually makes food for, the CNO or CEOs, he actually came to us and said, hey, we would really like to participate in this. And we started that in February, and it's been so amazing because they make anything they want, the patients want. They go out and get extra food if they don't have it. I mean, it's really incredible, and apparently the chefs love to make something different, so it's a win-win.
It definitely is a win-win. That's incredible, right?
Yeah, that's really awesome. You're doing a great thing there.
Absolutely a great thing, and I really appreciate you coming in and sharing that with us.
Thank you for having me.
I do have some swag for you.
Oh.
No one gets away without a Healthio 360 wristband, so
Thank you
I'm
so
going to give
much.
those to you. I'm also going to send a package home for you so you can give the other nurses in the bone marrow transplant unit, and some wristbands for all the good things and all the hard work that they're doing. We also would like to invite you out on date night. So this is for you. It's a gift certificate
Thank you so much.
for you to treat you to a nice dinner.
Wow, thank you so much.
And I hope you don't order food from the kitchen downstairs, as good as it may be. We want you to recharge your batteries and get out there and go with somebody special and have a meal on us.
Thank you so much.
thwarted our detective efforts. Got around it.
Yes, so keep up the good work. Nurses are really the unsung hero in healthcare. And fortunately for me, I've had very few stays in hospitals, but when I have, it's always the nurses that have brightened my day and made my stay more pleasant. So I want to thank you for everything you're doing. I also want to thank all the nurses at the Stony Brook University Hospital for all the hard work that they do. And that is our show for this week. So I'd like to thank again our guest Maggie Knight for coming in the studio and sharing her story with us. I'd like to thank the viewership at home for tuning in. Remember, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Pinterest. And don't forget when you're posting to use the hashtag #RealStories. Well, that's it for this week. And until we see you again next time, take care.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast are those solely of the Healthio 360 hosts and our guests for this broadcast. These views and opinions do not in any way reflect the views and opinions of our sponsors, advertisers, or other organizations on Healthio 360, including our community members.